So first and foremost, you're going to want to get some gloves on. You're going to want to have some type of PPE on, or whatever you want to call it. I do like to wear like my glasses when I'm out here, just in case anything would like splatter. We'll switch you around here in a second. I'm going to go ahead and start grabbing some coyotes and bringing them down, and then we're going to start scraping them. I told you I just had them all brushed out, and I found a damn cocklebur. I think a pair of them, actually. A little trio. I wouldn't try and brush these out. You're just going to really brush beat them, and you're going to tear out a lot of fur. Just pick through them. That's going to be your best option, especially to save, as much of the overall fur that you can. So, you start brushing that, really just hammering at it, you're going to damage. So then I just have this set up on a kind of a cable. I just gapped it, and then I can gauge how I like that. Give it a once over real quick. Make sure I didn't. Oh, that's just a big old. Look at that tick still living on that. That coyote's been hanging for 2 days. That's wild. So, now look at that. Anyone tell me what that is? Recent trauma. But it looks like it got bit, or is getting bit on. That's what I think. These would be old like tick bites. They're faded, they're deeper. It's a little bit more superficial. I just like to stretch them out a little bit. And then I usually take just a towel or a old like shop cloth. And then I brace this on. This is just like an onion sack with a heavy duty clamp and some knots. And then I put it over it. And that just kind of keeps everything from shifting or pulling down. And then I keep my Dexter blade. Got a sharp side and a dull side. We'll just bounce her down a little bit, kind of pulling. And then I like to go down just to feel for any like irregular, like anything that's irregular. You don't have to do that. I don't do it all the time. I just, for demonstration purposes. So then all you're really doing is just peeling this membrane off with some of this fatty tissue. You're wanting to get down to the actual leather of this animal. So whenever you're pulling stuff off, like don't squeeze it because then it wants to stick to you. Just lightly try and grab it, and you can flick it off easy. So I always just start on the back, and then I just rotate pretty much to where my last cut is. And then I just brace it up again, stretch it out. So I'm not wanting to get too far down because then you're going to be really working your shoulders. I'm more so wanting to try and work my, like, push down with my back and push with my triceps. Also like my chest. And I got a couple mice living in here. But that's what I got that cat for. The big area you're going to want to probably hit is right here by the arms, the armpit. And that is just, it just has a decent little chunk of meat. And I have not figured out a way to negate that whenever I am skinning. So then we just go to the other side. and then we'll pretty much just run it down. Just, you know, take off the cheek meat. You get some like old cheek meat membrane right there. Just take that off. I don't use my sharp side unless I have to. I can pretty much do most of this all with the dull side. Now it might be better in the long run if I was quicker with the sharp side, but for right now this does me just fine. And I try not to get too big on my ego and really stretch out here, because I want to keep the integrity of my shoulders the best I can for as long as possible. Like I said, just right under that armpit. And you can just, whenever you're going down, like, so I just come back and then try and get a bite in with my dull and then pull. I'll pull this up, but so after I do that side, I come to the belly, because that's where I know two of my big issue areas are. And then I'll just kind of straighten it out again. Okay, so I see I got a little issue, or a little bit of meat or tissue left. So like as I wipe it off, I'm not squeezing it. I'm just kind of collapsing my hand on it, lightly grabbing it. So, I mean, you don't really have to go down this crazy, but I'm like actually tanning these myself. So I try to get them as good as I can, and then after I get them dried, I kind of go over them with like a little finer instrument. Here, another little, I guess, tip is if your hands get sweaty, like mine are, you can always use talcum powder and kind of have a bowl of that, or even a weightlifting chalk. Will dry your hands out. You'll slide right into these gloves and not look like a buffoon like I am. So we've got it down to pretty much where the vent is. I like to try and get this big. Once you feel that bite, really push into your board. So that's where the vagina is. So you're going to want to probably do a little bit of hand carving with that. So you keep two knives right up here. They're right in my hand's reach, but I probably should sharpen them. So you can feel that tissue. The more tissue you leave on, the more decay you're going to have, and your tanning solution is not going to want to take. So if you're trying to come up with your own market on the tanning thing, or maybe making your own clothes, something to consider. All right. So after I do the belly, I'll show you what I do. Sorry, I'll quit messing around. So we got the belly on. So facing the bottom, right there, you can kind of see where its saddle's coming down. So we'll just kind of tuck that in. And then we're just going to kind of tot that down. Don't get too ballsy on your corners. I mean, you can get ballsy, but don't get too wild on them. You can nick pretty. I mean, you can even nick whenever you got your dull blade on them. So do as I say, not as I do. I just know from experience that the times that I have had issues with these is when um, is when I got a little too wild on the corners of your board. One thing you can do is you can kind of turn them, but you know this isn't wanting to flow well because it's not actually where it wants to be. So you can turn it and break up some of that junk. See? And now you've got this wide open. And then I call it walking the dog. I just rotate it all the way around. Now you could take your sharp, you could take your sharp and start cutting that. I don't like to do that. I can feel my finger. So I go in, angle my blade up. And then all that stuff's gumming me up and I don't need it. I don't need it in my way. Get your tail ready. Ooh. There's another spot that I was just thinking about that as I was doing this, turn it over to the belly. The nipples. Now this is a young of the year pup. I mean, you can tell by just looking at her, she didn't have but nothing on her. She didn't have hardly any fat, anything. So you can also about guarantee that she hasn't been bred and she don't have no nipples. When they do have nipples and they've got fur and you can't kind of tell that they're a matured female, and you start running them down and you can nick a hole that way too. So keep that in mind. So what I like to do is I have this little clip hook, and then I just like to, I also tape a hook up here. That way it fits into its nose, right where the butt of the nose or the back portion of the nose is. It flips over just like so, and I just hang them up on these hooks. And I have a little fan going on them. So I've got a little fan going on them, but I just hang them up right by those hooks. That nose flips out. Looks like I didn't get that lower lip all the way off. Alexa, volume 6. Baby. See, I almost let those hang too long. Bitch. So right there's that penis or the genitalia. So you can feel it. It's like a I don't know, a lump or a. It's just totally different. So you see how I can pull that up, that membrane up. See how that's starting to get a little. So now you can see what I'm talking about. It's okay if you cut a little hole here. It's not a big deal. I'd much rather look at all that tissue that's going to go bad. People wonder why their bellies go bad. Well, it could be because they're not getting all this membrane out. Or why am I getting dinged here on the belly? Well, because no one ever showed you this. But it usually connects right to this, and then you can take and just peel that down. But there's really minimal, very minimal right there. So I get it down to about that far on the belly, and then I come back to the saddle. So, all right, shut up. So you can also pull. See how you pull and you get it over closer? You get a better bite over it. On my board, you do anyways. That's the stuff I'm talking about. Don't squeeze that. Flick it. Don't squeeze that stuff. Just lightly flick it. Like I said, you just keep pulling it over. That's just binding you up, gumming you up. So you don't even have to get super close to the pelt if you're worried about that. It's not an absolute necessity, but it just every little bit helps. Ooh. Oh, this is that weird leg. Like gristle. Yeah, that crows is a bitch now. Trying to clean scrape some of these coyotes. Man.